Thanks so much for joining us on Shaw TV here in Fort McMurray. I'm Kendra Rempel, and as you know, we are partnering with local media for our Together is Amazing initiative in an effort to collect donations for our Fort McMurray Food Bank. Last weekend, we were at McDonald Island Park with Mix 103.7, including news director Leithan Slade. Here he is with his show, McMurray Matters, from McDonald Island Park.
Thanks for tuning in on this rainy Friday afternoon in Fort McMurray. We are broadcasting live from outside McDonald Island Park, where Mix 103.7 has once again partnered with Shaw on their Together is Amazing food drive. Of course, all in support of the Fort McMurray Food Bank. As you may have heard this morning, the morning show with Ashley and James, they were out here for the morning, accepting and encouraging your donations out here in front of McDonald Island Park. Joining me first on the show today is Danny Collins, the operation manager with Shaw Cable Systems here in Fort McMurray. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Leithan.
You couldn't have picked a worse day, I don't think. 17 degrees yesterday, 17 degrees tomorrow, yet you picked the rainy Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I think, it's a good exercise for everybody to come out into the cold and donate.
How has it been this morning in your eyes?
It's been pretty good. We've had quite a few. I know the schools have came out, got a lot. I think we just had 3 vans of food show up.
Yeah. So talk about Together is Amazing. I know it's a Canada-wide initiative, but here in Fort McMurray, we're probably the only community attempting to fill up a heavy hauler.
Absolutely. I think it truly speaks to Fort McMurray and a big piece of who we are.
So give us some rundown, the details of the Together is Amazing initiative. Together
is Amazing started in 2010. Basically, it was set up to really drive food to the food bank. Again, one of the basic needs of everyone, me, you, the world.
Yeah.
Since then, we raised 2.6 million pounds of food, and locally here, 55,000-ish.
Yeah.
And we're looking to do the same or more this year.
So this is the second year that it's been taking place in Fort McMurray? And do you set a goal, or do you just say we want to beat last year's total?
Beat last year's total, absolutely.
And talk about the ways, we mentioned it off the top, but there's a heavy hauler down here, which is unique. But can you kind of paint a picture of what's happening down here at McDonald Island Park for the listeners?
Our amazing friends and sponsors, SMS Equipment, as well as Mix 103.7.
Thank you.
Have donated I think it's a Komatsu HM300. It's a brand new, I think they called it a wiggle wagon. Beautiful machine. I don't think it's seen dirt. And basically we're attempting to fill it up.
How much can that hold, do we know?
I think the guy said 60 tons.
That's a lot of food.
I think dimension-wise, we'll be lucky to get maybe 40,000 pounds in it.
So I want to talk about it because it's great that we have in Fort McMurray such good industry partners, but you mentioned earlier that you have schools donating money and food, of course, and I know the Father Turcotte after school care students came over and met with Ashley and James this morning. How inspiring is it for you guys to see not just the major corporations, but just individual regular residents of Fort McMurray wanting to help out this cause?
Well, it's fantastic. You have kids coming in, they're 5, 6 years old, they're coming in hands full, and they're getting to go into the dump truck, and you tell they're really inspired by that. And if you foster that at a young age, it tends to drive it right up to adulthood.
And how about within the Shaw community here in Fort McMurray? Are your employees eager to come out and help out with this event?
Absolutely. We looked at the volunteers, and it's like, we're good. And I know the folks from SMS and yourselves, everybody's showing up to help out. And we're seeing people from the city, like Mayor Blake's here today.
Yeah.
And it's truly inspiring.
Now, with a lot of donation drives, we hear sometimes about challenges. Have you heard different companies challenging or employees of different sectors and saying, I donated this, match that?
We'd love to.
Now, let's talk about the website. Of course, we know Fort McMurray is an extremely busy place. If you aren't able to make it down this afternoon, there is a way to donate, and it's going to be matched as well. Talk about that.
Absolutely. So if you go to togetherisamazing.com, you watch the YouTube video. Every view up to $250,000, Shaw will match $1, and Campbell's will match 1 pound of food.
Can you watch it more than once?
Absolutely. Watch it all day long. And there's also an option there that if you have a credit card or a MasterCard, you can donate, and you'll receive a tax receipt for that.
Now, what do you think the title Together is Amazing? How do you think that reflects Fort McMurray specifically?
I think if any one group tries to do anything in the community, it's difficult, right? You start engaging other members, like the local media, industry. It truly helps bring it all together. And I think that's what we see here today.
You're also telling me before the show that you guys have been out in the community. This is just one aspect of this this lengthy food drive, and you were hearing some pretty inspiring stories from people that have needed help in the past, and now they're able to help out.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did a barbecue a couple weekends ago down at the supermarket, and people were coming with tears saying, you know, like, we truly depended on this. You know, we lived on this for 5 years, and today, because of it, we're in a better place. And they're giving everything they can. Other folks are coming in, and it hits home when they say, I'm going to need this soon. Here's what I have today, but you know, in a couple weeks, I could really be coming to the food bank with my hand out.
Right. So is this something that you guys at Shaw really look forward to each year? I know it's just the second year, but I know building on the success of last year with 55,000 plus pounds of food donated, it must be a pretty good buzz around the Shaw offices.
Absolutely. You know, and it's a real good story, and we want to give where we live, type of thing.
Right.
And here we are, and it's just a beautiful place to be.
So when are we here till? I know we're here most of the day. Can people come out all day and tomorrow as well?
Absolutely. We'll be here till 8 o'clock tonight and back again tomorrow morning at 8. And I believe the truck will be rolling out around 2:30.
And we know there's a big event taking place down here tomorrow afternoon. I guess any words of encouragement for people if they're coming down here to maybe drop off some donations if they can?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you're going to be in the neighborhood, please drop by. You know, if it's just a can or anything at all, it would be very helpful.
And again, I guess why should people want to help out?
I think at the end of the day, you know, anything can happen in our lives. Illness, loss of a job, anything. Sometimes you're only a paycheck away. Knowing that there's a resource like this, we got to make sure that it never goes empty.
And once again, what is that website where people can go if they can't make it out today, or even if they can?
Togetherisamazing.com.
Well, Danny, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you on. Congratulations on all the great work that you guys are doing, and we look forward to filling up this heavy hauler behind us over the next 2 days. We are broadcasting live this afternoon from outside McDonald Island Park on a rainy afternoon in Fort McMurray. We are partnering once again with Shaw here in Fort McMurray and across the country for the Together is Amazing Food Drive initiative. It's all in support of the Fort McMurray Food Bank. Last year, the donations equaled over 55,000 pounds of food. You can also check out the website, togetherisamazing.com. If you can't come down today, and you can donate online. Also, there's a YouTube video that if you watch it, every time it's viewed, Shaw will donate $1 and Campbell will donate 1 pound of food. Joining me now on the show is the mayor of the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, Melissa Blake. Thanks very much. How are you today?
I'm wonderful today. How about you?
Very good. And usually when we're on the show, we're recapping the previous night's council meeting, a different agenda on today's show. What do events like this mean to you here in the community?
Well, something like this certainly draws attention to an area that maybe most people won't think about on a regular basis, but it serves people on a regular basis. And that's what makes it so important, that it does get the recognition that it needs to be able to serve members of our community that are having difficulty serving themselves.
Now, stats from the food bank said that there was around 3,200 people served. Is that kind of concerning for you as government?
I would tell you that it is. And one of the things that I recognize as mayor of a community that has some of the highest cost housing in the country, I know that a lot of people are making the choice to make sure they have a roof over the heads of themselves and their families, and that means sometimes you sacrifice. It means you don't get a cell phone, it means you don't have the internet, but sometimes it even means you don't have food, and that's what we just simply, as a community, have absolutely got to support.
And we see, again, going back to the numbers on a brighter note, 144,000 pounds of food donated last year. What does that say about our community?
Well, now that's where we truly shine, because we do have such an incredible reputation for being a giving, charitable community, and there's no question that people will make their choices and supporting a variety of causes. And I think that's the other unique thing, is they don't stop with one cause, they support so many causes, and I'm grateful for the folks that do.
What do you think about this event in particular? I keep going back to the heavy hauler behind us that we're trying to fill. I think that's a pretty cool symbol of Fort McMurray.
It absolutely is, and I think it causes us to reflect on the good fortunes that we have in our economy here, and it gives us the opportunity for that hospitality or charitableness that we have within each of us. And so when you're passing a big truck, not looking as full as it should be, you feel pretty compelled to go back to that grocery store and pick up a few bags and put them in for the cause.
Now, as I was talking to Danny earlier, it's one thing to see the major corporations, which help out tremendously, but when you see a group of school kids coming up with a bag full of cans or food like that, that's pretty inspiring.
You know what it does? It builds that sense of community, and it makes them incredible citizens at such a young age. And when I think about the future, if they started at that young tender age to to recognize that they have the ability to take care of people beyond themselves, that just makes them outstanding opportunists for the future. And so whether they become leaders like what I'm sitting in this chair as now, none of it's discounted. I just think it's opening their eyes to opportunity.
And what do you think the title Together is Amazing of this initiative? How do you think that reflects our community specifically?
You know what? The title is wonderful, but I've thought of nothing more than stone soup. I had this story when I was a little child, and it was about a man who had a kettle and water that he filled his kettle with, and he was in a community that had come under hard times, and so nobody was willing to share with anybody. They had to hoard what they had so they could take care of themselves. But when he put this pot in the middle of the town, and he heated it up on a fire, and he put his stone in the soup, and passerbys got curious, he invited them to join him for lunch, and they would ask, "What is it?" "Stone soup." And as they said, "Yes, we'd like to join you," they would put a little bit of what they had in that pot. And so the pot grew with carrots and tomatoes and turnip and all kinds of other things I can't recall. But the point was, coming together is what made stone soup an amazing treat for the whole community.
And is that the message that you think events like this help spread across the country and across the province about Fort McMurray? Because we continuously go back to that theme of the outside perception, but it's events like this that we don't get the attention for that we deserve.
Absolutely, and I think that, again, that representation from a heavy hauler that sits, when you get that overflowing and you try to peg us as a community that thinks of only itself or does what they think that is that we do,
right,
you can't help but say, well, that's just not true.
Any messages out there to the public if they're driving around or at work on their lunch hour, and if they haven't come down here, as to why they should and make a donation?
You know what, and again, I think so many of us take for granted the good fortune that's come upon our lives. I try never to do that. If I'm in the grocery store, I'll add the occasional contribution. If there's a specific drive, I will make sure that I'm a part of it. But this is the food bank drive, and this is one of the ones that I'll be putting my contribution in the cash box. I'll be back with the kids later. I'll probably bring the bags of groceries because I want to see that truck overflowing. It's so easy to do, and it's so impactful for the people that will take up the cause and then benefit from it.
Well, Member Elizabeth Blake, I thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Leithan.
I'm your host, Leithan Slade. Thanks again for tuning in. We are broadcasting live from McDonald Island Park this afternoon, along with Shaw, as we are celebrating the Together is Amazing food drive, all in support of the Fort McMurray Food Bank. And I'm now being joined by the Food Bank's Executive Director, Ariana Johnson. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Leithan.
So what is this event for you? What does it mean?
This event is really...
Yeah, just flip that button up.
There we go.
This event is really important to us at this time of year. It provides us with much needed donations that we're starting to run out of from the Christmas rush.
Right.
Lots of people think about the food bank at Christmas, but we have to feed people year round, and come May, June, July is when our stocks really start to dwindle of our basic things that we try to give our families every month, the things that provide them with their biggest meals.
How many people does the food bank assist on an average year?
So in 2011, we assisted over 3,100 people with just over 1,300 hampers. We average about 5 individuals or families per day, give or take. Some days it's 12, some days it's 2,
Right.
But on average, we do about 5 to 6 clients a day.
Now, from what you know, has that number been rising or declining in Fort McMurray in recent years?
So it's continued to rise year to year. Certainly, the Fort McMurray increase from 2010 to 2011 was in fact lower than the provincial average.
Okay.
But we do still see on average anywhere from a 10 to 15% increase. I would say that the biggest increase we saw was between 2008 and 2010. We saw a 63% increase.
Now, can you talk about, I guess, the perception, because there's notes here that say 20% of the clients are employed. You may think that people that rely on the food bank aren't, but we know the circumstances here in Fort McMurray where it can be tough, where everything just seems to be a little bit more expensive. Can you talk about the clientele and who it represents?
So our clientele range from people who are on social assistance, so single moms who have multiple kids who, it's more economical for them to be on social assistance and not pay for daycare, to families of double incomes, and it's really about the industry they work in,
right,
given the disparity between wages and the cost of living here for people who work in retail, service, the social sector. People who work for nonprofits, most of them would meet our criteria. And so it's really the full gamut. Now, you know, there's always those misconceptions of, oh, you know, someone driving a Hummer is using the food bank, or someone who owns a $1 million home is using the food bank, and those are really just myths, you know.
Right.
They're myths that are perpetuated by the fact that perhaps someone driving a Hummer brings their friend who needs to use the food bank that doesn't have a car to the food bank. And so people, those misperceptions get perpetuated that way. Sure, do we periodically have a client who owns a home? Absolutely. Do I want them, just because, say, they've been laid off or there's been an injury in the family and they've hit hard economic times, to sell their home and risk the roof over their kids' heads for a month's worth of food? No, I don't want them to make that choice. And we work really hard to make it accessible and as confidential as possible for all of our clients, so that there isn't that shame and stigma around that.
And if there are people that out there right now that are facing some tough financial times, I guess, can you walk us through the process of how you, I guess, meet with a potential client and how you would assist them for whatever they need, how that process works?
Yeah, so it's a pretty simple process. I mean, it's an in-depth but simple process. The easiest way is to call us, and our phone number is 780-743-1125. And you would likely speak to Dan, who is my client services manager, and he would walk through the application process with you. We require that our clients prove needs, so they have to provide us with proof of income, proof of expenses, proof of residency, because we actually don't service the homeless population. We provide 30 days worth of food at a time, and so you have to. A homeless person can't carry that around on their back.
Right.
So you have to provide proof of residence, and there are ways around some of the documentation if you're missing it. If you're working with another agency and that other agency is willing to sign a referral, then it allows us to work around some of that documentation. But it's really important for us as an agency to make it as easy as possible while still ensuring that I'm accountable to my funders and who is the community.
Right.
We are primarily funded by the community. And it's really important for us to be accountable to them to ensure that we're serving the right people, the people who truly need it. But then once you've filled out the application, we book an appointment. We work on an appointment basis purely for confidentiality reasons.
Yeah.
Simply because we don't want our families to feel like there are other families standing in line on top of them, and that there's shame in coming to the food bank. And so we try to make it as confidential as possible that way. And then you come in for your appointment and you receive your food. And, we ask that people only use the food bank 6 times a year. And you can only come once every 30 days. And the reason for that is that we don't want people to be dependent on us.
Okay.
However, if beyond that 6 times a year something happens, there are, again, there's always circumstances that we're willing to work with people on. And really, you know, if you're questioning whether you can meet the criteria, it's really about just phoning and having a conversation with us. Because there's exceptions to every rule, and there's always a circumstance that we can work with.
Now, you talked before about kind of June, July being times where I guess the shelves that were full after Christmas and all those amazing drives start to become a bit bare. Are there some main items that you guys are seeking right now?
Absolutely. Things like canned meats are always a really big one, because if we're not in a place to be able to purchase perishable meats, it's a good replacement for our families. Hamburger helper, rice and dry pasta, canned vegetables like mushrooms and green vegetables and yellow vegetables. And you can always find the needs list at any time on our Twitter account and our Facebook account. I try to Twitter our needs list daily, Monday to Friday, but sometimes it's every second day just based on what's going on. And, you know, if you're going to buy gift cards, we ask that you please buy grocery store gift cards. We've gotten some really random ones like Home Depot and stuff like that. There's not even a Home Depot in town. So we ask that you focus on grocery store gift cards. And, you know, monetary donations are just as important, because we have to pay our rent and our bills and be able to keep the place open to be able to provide the food. So
now, again, just how important, because like you mentioned, the food bank operates year round, how important are events today like Together is Amazing with Shaw and SMS that really bring it front and center to the community and really bring the awareness to people that may not know, that say, look, there is a massive need for people to donate to the food bank here in Fort McMurray?
They're so important, and they're invaluable. You know, the food bank in some ways is very lucky compared to some other causes that people take it on, and they do the work for us in a lot of cases, you know, so we don't spend as much of our time doing individual fundraising, but it's definitely really a valuable asset to us and very important, because it's the only way we can get anywhere with the trying to solve the issue. And you know, like, there's a lot of things going on across the country that are affecting poverty. If you look at some of the cuts that the federal government made, it certainly is not going to help the poverty situation in our country. And certainly as things pick up here locally again, with the economy, it's going to just start to increase that disparity again, because the disparity between wages didn't decrease any when the slowdown happened, right? So everything just kind of halted where it was. It didn't decrease that disparity, but now that things are starting to pick up again, that disparity will start to grow again, and we will find more and more families in need. And so it's just invaluable. You can't put a price tag on what these kinds of events do for us.
Well, Ariana, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. It's a great cause, and just one quick encouragement for the public to come down and help out.
Absolutely. Anything you can do to bring it on down and put it in the heavy hauler and would be awesome. Maybe take a picture with it.
That's the challenge. We're trying to fill the heavy hauler. That was Ariana Johnson, the Executive Director of the Fort McMurray Food Bank. Once again, we are down at McDonald Island Park, broadcasting with Shaw and SMS Equipment for the Together is Amazing food drive. It runs today and as well tomorrow. We're trying to fill the heavy hauler, so anything you can donate, we'd appreciate it. That's it for today's show. I'm your host, Leithan Slade. Thanks for listening to Fort McMurray Matters.